Ladies and gentlemen, couple things happened today. For one, the sun came out for the first time in a while, and I saw it and it was real. And that was lovely. The other thing is I remembered to get a drink. So hopefully I'll be properly moisturized and not stumbling over words quite as much. Anyway, words came slowly yesterday. So today, actually. Actually, it's only 9. This is an early one for me. Yeah, words were slow. Progress was slow, but gradual. I set a lot of time aside for it. The rest of the day I spent cleaning leaves out of my garden and building warhammers with my dad. the thing with the warhammers, like most of why I started doing it again, is my dad wasn't dealing with lockdown well, and yeah, the idea was a hobby we could. He'd feel like, I mean, yeah, it's he's the kind of dude we can't like tell him to do something. He has to think it's his idea, and yeah, he can't just think it's for him. It has to be benefiting someone else as well. So I was like, oh, I'd like to learn how to paint all the Warhammer men like you used to. Do you think you could teach me? And he jumped on that, and he's got loads of bloody knights now. Um, Loads of Warhammer Age of Sigmar knights, big golden men everywhere you look. I think people don't like the big golden men, but they're very nice models. Anyway, we have words to read. This is why we've been dilly-dallying all day. This is why we took so long to write the dang words. Again, I'm not entirely sure how the quality might look of these words. I kind of made an outline of stuff I want to happen in the story. I have a beginning. Well, this is the beginning, but I have like a vague middle and an end that I have a scene for in mind. That's exciting. That's more than I usually do. But yeah, we've got a whole kind of outline. We could potentially work this down into a finished product at some point, and that'd be lovely. And then we'd have a story, and we'd be able to say we've written a whole ass novel. I've done Nano a lot of times, but I've never done the refining all the words into something that could be considered finished. That part's always got away from me. But you know, doing the YouTube videos might keep me honest. There's a better chance, maybe. Anyway, I'm gonna take a drink and then we're gonna start. At the top of the stairs, a throng of suits, standing roughly elbow to elbow, entirely blocked Rob's view. On the other side of the wall of bystanders, he could hear the progression of frantic action, a mad panic, cries of anguish, and most bizarre of all, a deep animal roar. He fought his way through the mob, forcing his way through. This is very redundant. Forcing his way through the joins between the people. All at once, everyone in the vicinity turned and began to scramble away towards the stairs, through Rob. He struggled to keep his balance as he was buffeted on all sides, still fighting his way onwards. Before he ever reached any kind of destination, someone hit him. Other way, it was April. Gaps started to form in the throng as enough people exited the area. Peering through, Rob saw blood. A wounded suit crawling towards him one moment. Then something low to the ground, glittering gold where the light hit it, drew close to him. The man gave one closing yelp, followed closely by the sound of tearing meat. The gap closed, and Rob could no longer see anything. Suit yourself! April ducked past him. Rob turned to follow, but lost sight of her in the crowd. He decided to vacate the area regardless. The suits moved as a herd, frantic and scared. People stumbled and went down only to be run over. Others went crashing down the stairs or off the balcony to the side. This needs refining, but I think it's pacey, it works. A few opted to hide back in their glass-walled offices and wait out whatever was happening. Another man was thrown to the ground under a streak of gold, this one inside the mass of people, and the rest carried on around him. Rob came briefly face to face with a man who did. There's a lot of men who were just men. Face to face with a man who'd had a chunk taken out of him, his face savage from a deep gash in the form of 3 distinct lines. He stepped on something soft and heard a crack like breaking bone. Some of this needs working down. I like the last bit. This is just a good ass sentence. You can use this sentence if you want for someone forcing their way through a crowd of panicking people. Rob didn't notice the top of the stairs until he'd already gone over them. He'd have fallen if the crowd hadn't been so close together it was impossible to do so. The crowd flowed like water, dispersing in every direction as soon as it hit the end of the stairway. Rob had to fight to keep his course downwards. Whatever was happening was surely meant as retribution against Rob's group. That much seemed obvious. It clearly backfired, however, and was attacking indiscriminately. Rob searched the depths of his newfound foreign knowledge for a reason, and saw the same thing he had earlier. A creature so vast and vile that it didn't even register what it killed and drank as human. Clearly, though, something had caught his attention. He realized that all this being granted, he should too know the form of his attacker. The answer from the dark recesses of his mind was one word in a language he didn't understand. Azalot. He had no idea what it meant. This is the Aztec word for jaguar, by the way. It's a mechanical jaguar. That's what's going on. Don't worry about it. There's a kind of the idea for the villain is like it was first discovered in yeah. I kind of want to explain this in more detail. I will write something down about it. I wanted to. I don't know. The idea is that it's first discovered by like not the machine, the like god. It's first discovered by Native American people. Well, Native Mexican, I guess. That continent, and they're kind of not big fans of it. They're wary, but then the Spanish show up and kill everyone, and they're like, "Oh, this weird evil god says he can just give us things. That's fine. This sounds fine." They kind of carry the idea back, and then it eventually forms into the machines, which they're very powerful, but also very obviously evil. I got a lot of ideas about the villains. I will need to write this down. It'll make a lot more sense if I do. Anyway, another roar went out. It was deep, guttural, and violent, and just slightly metallic, like it was being relayed through a bad microphone. Someone else went over the edge of the balcony, this one by choice. They jumped rather than face whatever was coming for them. The crowd had grown distinctly more ragged as they reached the next set of stairs. Many of its members had tailed off from the main group to hide in offices or under stairs. Others had fallen to what fate he dare not imagine. Rob's injured legs were beginning to falter, and he could feel himself getting slower already. Willing himself onwards, he remembered there were only 3 more floors. They hit the bottom, and again the crowd split, some running around to the other side of the looping platform. He wished them the best, focusing on getting to the ground floor as fast as humanly possible. Rob noticed a thick coat of crimson gore had appeared on the front of his suit across one arm. He hadn't seen whatever happening, but was fairly sure the blood was not his own. A wave of force passed through. This is very disjointed. We'd need to work on this. That's fine though. A wave of force passed through the crowd, which folded inwards under its weight. Rob predicted the path that the sudden surge of energy was taking, realizing it would hit him long before it did. But there was still no way to maneuver in the close confines of the crowd. Human bodies slammed against him, throwing him against the railing. Maybe a dozen people had been knocked down in the commotion. A flash of gold amongst the surrounding scrum told him he needed to resume moving as soon as possible. The closest of the prone suits was a woman with long, neat. This was because I had so many just faceless men. Closest of the prone suits was a woman with long, neat hair and a couple of missing fingers. She was transfixed by her fresh wounds and focused more on trying to contain the bleeding with a good hand than escape. Rob stepped across her as another series of low growls permeated the crowd. The section he'd been a part of had quite intentionally been scattered by the collision, and Rob knew he was in danger of being singled out and picked off. When the roar that heralded another attack came out, Rob froze. He heard a sudden scream of pain and was just thankful it hadn't gone for him this time. This does not need to be a completely new paragraph. He ran for the next set of stairs, vaulting the railing shortly after the halfway point, and regretting it immediately upon landing. His already tortured knees screamed, and even with the shortcut he'd taken, he was in no danger of catching up to the rest of the group. Oh, someone's coming again. We got a scene change. Are you okay? Zach wasn't answering April's text. There were many possible reasons for this, but whatever had been going on wasn't over yet, judging by the screams. Hopefully, he'd had the good sense to hide too, rather than try claw, scratch, and bludgeon all the way through the crowd of people. That said, if anyone was going to make it in a straight sprint, it was probably Zach. You could say what you want about him, but the guy knew when to run. April had found refuge at the back of one of the larger offices, hiding in between one of the many desks and a water cooler, hammer ready. She'd made it down a few floors before the bustle of the stampede had dissuaded her from continuing. She'd had one too many close calls and developed a black eye in the chaos. This is just. It seems weird that like everyone's getting cut apart and she's got a black eye, but the idea was that like she'd been punched by someone or like unintentionally struck by people who were trying to get away. Whatever the thing that pursued them was, it was having no trouble keeping up with the crowd. In fact, it seemed to be largely ignoring stragglers to keep harrying the fleeing mass. It, it. Something had been wrong with that statement. Was it really that fast in that many places at once? Were there more than one? Her phone beeped. Lift gone. The statement was concise and worrying. Whoever got to the lifts first would have departed immediately, likely to the ground floor. There would be an agonizing wait while it came back up. She hadn't considered this. Another beep. Did you see? She replied quickly. Kind of. It'd been about the size of a man, but squat and mammalian, running on four legs. It clicked mechanically as it touched the floor and glinted gold when it moved. It had claws and teeth, the limits of which had not been tested by the skin and bones of the people it confronted. Zack beeped her again. Big dog? She didn't think so. Cat. The word probably technically applied. It was closer to a tiger than a house cat. Someone else was hiding in the same office as April, but they were peeking way too greedily. She prayed she'd been right about their fixation on the main group and not too far wrong in their numbers. Another text came in. Are you safe? She had absolutely no idea. She assumed they didn't know where she was, but was a long way from being somewhere they weren't. She replied concisely, not wanting him to worry. Yes. Then she pictured Zack waiting by the lift as the rest of the crowd caught up with him, leaving the lot of them pinned between the beasts and the back wall as the lifts made their glacial ways up and down the building. She texted, Are you? Zack replied, Don't worry. She continued to worry. She wondered if Rob was okay. Last she'd seen of him, he'd miraculously survived falling for his death? To his death. Obviously. To his death. Yeah, we are going to have to be quiet for a minute while occurrences occur. Last you'd seen of him, he'd miraculously survived falling to his death, only to run headfirst into the things. I think we're good. It would be a shame to get eaten not a full 5 minutes after cheating death. As she exhaled, she saw a spray of bubbles exit her, slowly trending upwards in an invisible current. Far above, in the foyer, the light twisted and warped on contact with the rising waves. A small school of brightly coloured fish was twisting its way around the central pillar, under the shadow of something much bigger. It looked from its silhouette like a hammerhead shark. This would be a really bad time to freak out. And then, scene change, and we're back with Zack. Zack pressed the button again, but the lift didn't seem to be moving any faster. He was pretty sure at this point the device was fucking with him specifically. There were a few people waiting by now, all of them seeming just as impatient as he was. A few were shooting him dirty looks, as if he was responsible for what was happening. He'd seen them chanting, though. In Zack's expert opinion, they'd probably brought this on themselves. The lift was in a tiny section of hallway, connected by a single door to the box room with the weird desk guy, connected by a single door to the main work floor. As far as Zach could tell, there were no other viable exits. Although there was a fire escape they could crack open if the group figured they could beat the monster down another 28 flights of stairs. Zach had considered it, but knew he wouldn't make it another 5. And that's where we're at today. There's been a rather drastic tonal shift within the last 2. I am enjoying this though. It was a good idea to change up the kind of thing we were doing here. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's made me feel less. It's made it feel less like a job because it does that sometimes. If you when you set yourself, you've got to write this many words a day, and it's so many words. Yeah, if you can kind of get stuck in a loop, just stuck in a yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it gets repetitive. You gotta do something to get yourself out of that. If you get stuck in that kind of spiral. Anyway, we had fun today. We finished everything nice and early. I don't know where we're gonna go tomorrow. We have a vague outline for the middle, but we might be getting to the middle. We probably will. It tends to go slower than I imagine it will, but we might be getting near the middle, and then I'll have to work out what's gonna happen in the middle. But yeah, that's today. It is the 12th. There is 18 left, and this is Fruity Spruce signing out.